Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on July the 10th, 2020. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. As usual, we will start by taking a look at our calendar here. So in terms of data, it was a fairly light day for data. Now, there was one big thing that happened today that did have a large impact on the market, and that was in regards to President Trump. So as you may or may not know, in the US, generally presidents will show their tax records, and President Trump, when he came into office, he did not do that. So over the last several years, we have seen people have been asking for those tax records, and the case has been in court. Today, the Supreme, so it's gone through various levels of courts, and today the Supreme Court made a ruling that President Trump, his financial records can be shown to the prosecutor, which is our district attorney of New York, but it will not go to the House. So Congress won't have access to it, but the district attorney can have access to it, and grand jury can have access to it. So it's sort of a win. One thing that they said was that because he's the president does not mean that he's outside of Constitution. He does have to submit his records if they are required for an active investigation. So I think that's what we have here. And as a result of when that news broke out, as soon as the news hit the wires, we saw a big drop in the stock market. And of course, these days, our Forex is highly tied into the stock market. And we saw same move in our dollar crosses as well as yen crosses. So that's what's going on with this. So we'll see what happens with this. This may just be a one-time thing, or it may actually have an impact on the markets, because so that's one thing. Now, the other stuff that is impacting the markets right now, we see that number of coronavirus cases has gone up. And this is, we have seen in the US, the number of deaths has been increasing as well, not just the coronavirus cases. And then, of course, we talked about how Melbourne has gone back into lockdown. And then today there was news that Hong Kong and Tokyo were also seeing an increase in the number of coronavirus cases. So it looks like the places that are opening are being negatively impacted, or they're seeing a rise in the cases. And the stock market has been in this sideways move for a bit for the last 2-3 weeks now, maybe a little bit more, where we are seeing that it's just flipping back and forth. It's in a sideways move rather than really making progress. The only or one of the ones that we look at, the one that is making progress is the Nasdaq, which is made out of all the tech stocks, and all the tech stocks have been doing just absolutely, they've gone crazy, I should say. Amazon is at $3,000 a share. So all these tech companies are doing incredibly well have done incredibly well during this pandemic. So NASDAQ is still pushing higher. However, the Dow Jones as well as our S&P 500, they haven't really gone anywhere. So we'll take a look at that in a bit. But overall, those are the overarching stories that we have right now. So let's take a look at what's coming up in terms of news here. This week has been fairly light on news. Coming up here on Friday, we have employment data out of Canada. So if the numbers are not, if there's a big gap between what the expected number is and what the forecast or what the actuals are, to the downside, then we're likely to see a negative impact on Canadian dollar. Otherwise, if it's a bit of a miss, I don't think we'll see much of an impact. I think market is still ignoring all kinds of negative news and negative data, so I wouldn't expect much news there. But that's pretty much it in terms of news. We do have core PPI numbers here. Again, I would not expect a big impact from this. So let's go on to our charts now. We'll start off with our euro dollar. So yesterday we were looking for euro to go up. It did, and then now it has turned around. And if you take a look at it, that we saw that big drop as the news was coming out in regards to President Trump. So with this here, we do have a nice bearish candle close here. And now we did have a bearish candle close here as well. So market has been extremely volatile lately. So looking at this here, I will look for a pullback and then a bit of a drop here. So bias here is bearish for euro dollar, and first target to the downside here would be 1.1235. So a bearish bias here. Basically, as we can see, price is still trading in that range. It did try to get out of that range. It did go up, but then when it came into this resistance level, couldn't really hold the level, and now we are back again. So bias here is bearish. Essentially, I'm looking for price to move lower towards the bottom or the mid and then the bottom of the range here. And with this here, looking for a bit of a pullback here, potentially into 1.1300. or maybe even a little bit higher here into 1320 level, but then looking for a drop here. Target is 1.1235. Second target here will be 1.1200. So bearish bias here for euro dollar. Pound dollar here. Pound has been going up for the last couple of weeks. Today we do have a doji, which is bearish here. And with this one as well, if you take a look at the lower time frame, we see that big drop here, which was after that Supreme Court ruling came out. So bias here also is bearish. There's a large pin, which means a rejection. And I would look for a drop here. So looking for a bit of a pullback into 1.2620. And then drop. Next target here is 1.2560, and then below that we're looking at 1.2520. So bearish bias for pound dollar. Aussie dollar as well. We see that price went into the resistance here, couldn't really hold above, and now it's back into the range again. So this is the range it's been trading in. It's still stuck in that range, although it did try to break out of it. It's back into the range. So now we are basically in the same place that we were here. This one here, it did go back up, but back in here. So which means bearish bias again, and I'm looking for price to drop here. So in this case, looking for a bit of a pullback again, and then a drop. Target here is 0.6920 and then 0.6880. So bearish bias here for Aussie dollar as well. New Zealand dollar here, this one looks similar to our pound today. So we have this doji here. In this case, I would say neutral bias here, because we are not, this is not completely looking bearish here. This is more indecision in this case. So I'm looking for a bit of a pullback, and then if it holds below, this is an important support resistance level here at 0.6580. Actually, even the top here, 0.6600. So this one may go and retest that level, but as long as it holds below that, I am essentially looking for a drop here as well, not seeing this as hugely bullish because it has gone up, but it doesn't quite have that momentum that it did here. It's starting to turn over here, or it may start to turn over soon because it's not really making that much of a progress. So neutral to slightly bearish bias here. Target is 0.6520 and then 0.6480 bearish bias here. Sorry, neutral to bearish. Okay, dollar CAD here. Dollar CAD still stuck in this range. Now it did try to break down here, wasn't able to go through the support level here, and we are back into that range. Today's candle close is bullish. So with that Supreme Court ruling, we saw things flip pretty rapidly, actually. So this one's looking bullish as well. Now with the stock market, if the stock market drops tomorrow, I will look for dollar crosses to drop. Dollar CAD, on the other hand, I would look for it to go back up if the stock market drops. So here, right now, this is looking bullish. First target is 1.3620. Second target, 1.3680, back into that level there. So bullish bias here, but keep an eye on this resistance level. This is very strong resistance at 1.3620. So if price does not go through that, we could see a drop again. So do keep that in mind. But for now, bias is bullish for dollar CAD. Let's take a look at our commodities here. An interesting day in the markets. So with our silver here, we see that price went all the way, went into the resistance, and now it has closed with a bearish candle here. Slightly bearish. There's a bit of it's a pin bar, but there's a bit of a pin in the bottom too, similar to this. And I am not expecting this, but we may see a drop. Sorry about that. My puppy there wants to do the market analysis as well. Okay, so bias here is a bearish. We may get a pullback into 18.75, and then if it holds below, I'm looking for a further drop here. First target is 18.45 and then 18.20. So neutral to bearish bias for silver. Gold here, this one is looking slightly bearish as well. We see that price wasn't able to go through the resistance, and now we may see a further drop into 1790 here, or 1794, and this would be an important level here. If it holds above this level like it did today, we could see another move higher. So I'm neutral on this one, but we may see a break and we may see a retest of this 1787, that area, or 85 even, or 1780. So keep an eye on that. So bias for now is neutral to slightly bearish for gold. Oil here, oil has had a big drop today after many days of just trying to go up. Nice big drop here, bearish bias. We may get a pullback into 40.21. So there was, I think, I want to say Libya, but one of the countries that made an announcement that they're going to start increasing their production, which caused oil to drop because of concerns around oversupply. And this is what happened here. And when oil drops, Canadian dollar weakens as well. So we have seen Canadian dollar drop as a result of that. That's why the dollar CAD went up. But in terms of oil here, this is looking bearish. And first target is 39 and then 37. So bearish bias for oil. Copper here, copper has had a big pin bar here. Now it did go all the way into the resistance here. And at this point, this is I'm looking for another drop here. So bias here is neutral to bearish. Now watch out for a pullback into 2.81 potentially. And if it holds below, I'm looking for a drop back down towards 2.76. So neutral to bearish bias for copper. Bitcoin here, this one has dropped. So bias here is, it's back into so it was into resistance here, and it's back into this range that it's been trading in for a bit here. So bias is bearish now. 90.50 is the first target, and then 88.80 is the second target here. So bearish bias for Bitcoin. S&P 500, this has been interesting. We have seen price go back and forth, and today there was a definite reaction here to that, to the announcement, or the Supreme Court ruling, I should say. Now, we'll have to see part of this, of course, just like all the inefficient moves, this one has been filled. Now, we'll have to see how the market reacts here. That in itself is not as big a deal because that was more news. And it can, impact the politics and so forth. But from the market perspective, currently, a few things are getting stacked now, one on top of each other. We have growing number of coronavirus cases. In the U.S., for sure, it's getting worse. The number of deaths have been increasing, and also we have seen other areas that are not opening or lifting the restrictions that they were supposed to lift. And we are seeing in Australia, Melbourne went into lockdown. We also heard today that Tokyo not doing so well as Hong Kong. We're seeing an increase in number of cases. So those are some of the things that can make a difference. So keep an eye on that. Now, we do see that price has been holding below this resistance level for the entire week, essentially. So at this point, if it holds below the resistance level, 31.80, then I am looking for a drop, but we may see a retest of that level. So keep an eye on that, or we may just see a retest of 31.65 or 31.80. So both of those levels could get, or either one of those levels could get retested. But once it drops through this 31.30 levels and holds, then I will look for a further move to the downside. But market has been exceptionally resilient, and it just is ignoring all kinds of negative news at the moment. But we'll need to see how long it keeps on ignoring the negative news before it basically does what happened here. But for now, though, market has not gone back into risk-off mode at this point. It's just neutral right now. So as long as it holds below 31.80, I will look for a pull back down here. In terms of targets, the first target would be 31.12 level, and then we're looking at 30.80. So neutral to slightly bearish bias for S&P 500. Nasdaq here, Nasdaq basically didn't even break a stride. It did drop here and then went right back up, and again it's looking quite bullish here. So bias is still bullish for this one. The target 10,820 still stands, and then it may even go into 11,000. So I would keep an eye on it. 10,820, then 10,900. So we're getting close to that 11,000 mark. So right now, this is neutral to bullish for NASDAQ. Dow Jones here, we did see a drop in Dow Jones, but as we can see, price is pushing higher here. So in this case, I'm looking for a pullback into 25,900, and if it holds below, then we may see that drop again. So for now, for the time being, bias here is bearish. First target would be the low of today, which is 25,520, and next target is 25,300. So bearish bias here for Dow Jones. DAX here, this is going sideways here, hasn't really done a whole lot. today or yesterday, it's still stuck in that range, so bias is neutral. But if it holds below this 12,680 level, then chances are we are going to see another drop. So watch out for that. Bias for now is neutral to maybe even slightly bearish for DAX. FTSE did see that drop. We are back into support, so I would look for a bit of a pullback here, potentially into 61.20, and then looking for a further move to the downside. 59.60 will be the target. But keep in mind, we are into some solid support here. This is where market had turned around previously. So if we see that price is not able to break the support, we may see it go back up again. So watch out for that. But bias is bearish at the moment for FTSE. And we have Nikkei here. Nikkei has also been stuck in this range here for the last several days, over between 22,300 and 22,800. So right now it's looking slightly bearish, but it's still holding above that support. If it doesn't break through, it can go back to test the high. So do keep that in mind. So for now, neutral to slightly bearish. If it moves through the support, then we're looking for a move back down here. And in that case, the first target would be 22,120, and then we're looking at 22,000. So bias here is neutral to slightly bearish here for Nikkei. All right, so that's it for today. Have a wonderful trading day, and I will see you later. Bye for now.